So as of now, we have seen operating system, different programming language, different type of programming language. We understand what is compiler, interpreter. IDE, I will talk about that, okay, once we do the Python install. Right now, I have not done the Python installation, okay, and we are everything going to do on the Google Colab notebook, okay, but you can install the Python, and we understand what is the different process, like source code to machine code, what is the different process involved, okay, and how to compile the program. So this is the code, this is the I would say command, okay, you have to remember this command. So this command will produce the bytecode. It is for compilation, okay, and once it is compiled, then we call interpreter to produce the machine code, and you will see the output. So yeah, so these are some things, okay, so we will do this once we will install the Python. So right now just skip that part, okay, I will help you later how to install Python, how to do everything locally. Right now let's focus on the concept, okay, just understand the basic concept of Python, okay. Okay guys, so I will be using Google Colab for that, and you have to be very familiar with the Google Colab going forward. Okay, so now let's start our class.
The screen is not visible.
Screen is not visible for everyone. Screen is not visible.
Sorry, it's clear for me.
Now I'm visible. Now visible.
Okay, because of network. Okay, now let me
now
talk
it's
about
clear, sir. Clear, sir.
clear, no? Okay, great. Okay. Now let me talk about the Python, where we can use Python. What are the different uses of Python? Okay. As you know that Python is a very general purpose programming language, just like a Java, C, C++. So there's so many programming languages. Similarly, Python is another programming language. Okay, and it is a high level programming language, not a low level programming language. And the beauty of Python is that it's very simple. Python is very simple language as compared to other language like C, C++, Java. So Python is very simple and easy to understand and expressive language. Okay, I am giving you one example here. I just want to compare Java with Python. Let's suppose in Java you want to add two numbers. Okay, here if you do some Google search, Java add two numbers. So let's understand how to add two numbers in Java. So this is pretty much programming you have to do in Java. Okay, first of all, you have to create a class, some class name, and some main method like this, and take two variable, number one, number two, and do the addition. Number one plus number two is equal to sum, and print it. Okay, so this is pretty much Java code. You don't have to understand the syntax right now. I'm just giving the idea. So this is the Java code that you have to write to add two numbers. Okay, same thing I can do in Python. So in Python, system got hanged.
Sir, every language we can write, we can run on Google collaboration.
No. Not every
only
language.
Python.
This is only for Python.
Okay.
Oh God, my system is playing with me. 1 second, guys. My system got hanged.
Sir, for laptop, how much configuration we want for this?
For laptop, minimum 8 GB RAM should be enough.
8 GB.
Below 8 GB is also okay, but nowadays 8 GB RAM is very common. What is your RAM? Oh God, man. System. What happened to this browser got hanged? Let me open your browser. Sorry, my browser is slow. Let me open a browser. It's taking too much time. Come on, man, sometimes. Let me close everything. Okay. Okay. Sorry, I'm back. 1 second. Let me share my screen. Okay. So here I want to give some comparison. Okay, how Python is simple language as compared to other language. For example, if you want to add two numbers, so this is the Java code you have to write. Okay, you can see here we have to write a class, then parentheses, curly braces, then a main method. Okay, then two numbers. Okay, then sum, then a system.out.println. So this is pretty much Java code. Okay, to write add two numbers. Same operation we can do in Python code. So in Python code is very straightforward. Okay, so this is the Python code to write a add two numbers. This much you have to do. So a is equal to 10, b is equal to c 20 number, and c is equal to a plus b and print c. That's all. Okay, so you can see anyone can understand this language and this syntax. Do you find any difficulty here to understanding this syntax? It is too straightforward, right? It's just like a plain English, right? Yes. So I am taking two numbers, a is something, b is equal to something. I'm adding two numbers, and then I'm storing the data into C and printing C. It's very straightforward. So this is the Java, this is the Python code. Don't worry, I will talk about that. So I was just giving some comparison how Python is simple language. Okay, so Python is a general purpose language. You can use Python for different purposes. There are different purpose. For example, if you want to develop game, you can use Python. If you want to do some web application, you can use Python. Let's suppose you want to develop some desktop application, you can use Python. For MI machine learning AI app, Python. So Python is the leader in case of data project in the data science. Like, for example, machine learning, artificial intelligence, data engineering. So Python is the leader in that segment. Okay, and though you can use Python for embedded application as well and for data analysis, for data science. But see, every language has its own importance. I'm not saying that only Python is important. Java is not important. C++ is not important. Every language had got its own importance. Okay, for example, a web application. Though Python you can use as a web application, but in the web segment, Java is a leader. Okay, let's suppose game application. Though you can use Python for the game application, but in the game segment, C++ is the leader in the game segment. For desktop application, again, you can use Python, but in desktop application, again, Python, Java is a leader. Okay, so where is the Python is the leader in the section of machine learning, artificial intelligence, data analysis. There, Python is a leader. Though you can use Python for different purpose, but Python has got very important space in case of data science and data engineering, like machine learning, artificial intelligence. Okay. So Python is a very high-level programming language, and it has a lot of concepts like memory management, security. I will talk about that. It's a very advanced concept, so I don't want to touch upon right now. And Python is an interpreted programming language, and Python is a portable language. It's a dynamic language, and it has huge library support. Okay, so yeah, these are things that you will come to know slowly, gradually. You will come to know. But right now, let's focus on the coding part, syntax part. So these are some feature of Python. But let's jump to the programming. Okay. So in this section, today, we will start the Python basic component. So now we are starting our basic syntax, how to write a code in Python. Okay. So let me talk about the programming components. So in the Python, what are the different building components? What are the basic component in Python that you, as a programmer, as a student, you should understand, you should know that, okay? So there are concept of literals in Python, constants, variables, identifiers, reserved words, expression and statements, block and indentation, and comments, okay? So we will see these all concepts one by one. So this is we are starting the Python now. Let me talk about the literals. What is literals? Okay. Literals, it's in the layman term, if I say literals, it means any value. Any value. In mathematics, if you know mathematics, then in mathematics you deal with multiple data, multiple value. For example, integer value, fraction value, decimal value, right? Negative value, positive value, right? Complex number, right? String data, sentence. So these are so in language, it's in the language also we have to deal with those data, those values. Okay. For example, int. I have to take, let's suppose I want to add two numbers, two integer numbers. Then you have to take int, float, complex number. Okay. So these are pretty much, so any value that you can think about is called literals. Okay. So what is literal? Literal is any value. It can be int, it can be float, it can be complex number, it can be Boolean number, it can be string. So anything, any value, it holds the value. Okay. So for any value, it's another name called literals. And we will see all the literals one by one. Okay. So it can be int, it can be float, it can be we will see one by one. What is int, what is float, what is complex, what is Boolean, what is none, what is string, we will see that. So anything which are the value, it can be int, float, everything is called literals. This is the basic concept about literals, any value. Okay. I hope this part is clear, right? This part is clear. What is literals? What do you mean by literals? It's a value, any value. Whether it's a fraction, integer, negative, positive, any value. This part is clear, right? For everyone, it is clear what is literal.
Yes.
Okay. Next topic is about this is an important topic. Okay, what is constant, what is variable, and what is identifier? And these concepts can be applied for all the languages. This is not only for Python. This can be for all languages. Okay, so every language has a concept of constants. What is constants? What is variables? What is identifiers? So this applies to every language. So first, let me talk about variables. Okay, what is variables? What in the layman term? Let's suppose I ask you, what do you mean by variables? In the English, in the plain English, variable. What do you mean by variable?
Variables are nothing but alphabets.
Number.
Okay, variables are those things which can change. So variable is made of two words, vary plus able, variable. Okay, it means something can change in future. That is called variable. Okay, let's suppose here I'm creating how to create a variable in Python. So this is very simple. Okay, let's suppose I want to store some data. Let's suppose I want to store int data, float data, or positive data, negative data, whatever. It can be any kind of data. Okay, so to store the data, we need a container. Let's suppose you need a water. Okay, so to store a water, you may need a glass, or you may need some cup, or you may need some mug, jug, whatever. Okay, so your water is your data. Okay, and to hold this data, to put the data, you need some containers. It can be glass, it can be anything, right? So in the same thing in programming, we hold some data, maybe in data, flow data, fraction data. These are the data, real data. Okay, and to store the data in programming, we need variable. So variable is just like a container. Okay, what is container?
Glass cup.
Just it is just like a glass cup, katora, whatever you can say. Okay, so that is a variable. Okay, for example, let's suppose I want to hold 10. Let's suppose 100. Okay, I want to store 100 in my program. 100 is a pure data, it's an integer data, but I want to keep this data somewhere, because in program, what happens if you want to play with data, if you want to do any kind of operation on data, then first you have to store it. Okay, so data is one part and storage is the second part. So your first step is what? Let's suppose I want to add two numbers. I want to add 100 and 200. I want to do operation. Okay, 100 and 200. So if you want to do any kind of operation, what the first step is what? You have to store the data. So first you have to store 100 somewhere and then 200 somewhere. Okay, so I need a container first. Okay, so these containers is called variables. So how to store the data? Let's suppose 100. Okay, so I will say A is equal to 100. So here, what I'm doing here, 100 is my data. It's my real data. And this data I'm storing into A. So A is a kind of a
Variable.
glass or
Variable.
container. Okay. So A is
Yes.
called variable.
Yes.
This A is called variable. And the 100 is the real data. This is the actual data. Okay. But this data is getting saved in a variable or container or glass, anything. So A is called variable. This is variable. I can give any name, not only A. I can give A, B, C. You can give any name. Okay. Or you can give any my first variable. You can give any logical name. I will talk about how to write a variable name, my first variable. So any variable, and it can have any name. Okay. So you have to give some proper name to your container, to your glass, to your container. Okay. So for example, I'm giving A here, very simple A. So A here is the variable. Okay. So this syntax is pretty much okay. Everybody got this syntax. What I'm doing with this syntax? Who will explain me what I'm doing here? If I'm saying A is equal to 100, then what I'm doing here? There's a background noise. Okay. Anyone, if I'm saying, if I'm writing A is equal to 100, then what I'm doing here? Can you explain me?
Sir, 100 is a data
Uh,
which is stored in one container, that is A.
And A is a variable, right?
A is a variable.
Okay, great. Let's suppose I want to store 200. Then again, I have to take another variable. May suppose B. B is equal to 200, like this. Okay, so 200 becomes another data and the variable is B, right? So why I'm calling variable? Because I can change the data. Now here A is storing what? A is storing 100. Now after sometimes I can make my change. I can change my mind and I will say A becomes now 900. Okay. You can see here now initially A was storing 100. Now A is storing 900. So I can change the data. So A can hold different data. That's why it is calling that's why I call it variable. Okay. So variable is a container, but it can hold different data over period of time. If I want to change the data inside the variable, I can change it. That's why it is called variable. Any doubt so far? We are good. What is variable? Okay. I want to put one more analogy. Let's suppose you have a TV in your house. I think everybody had TV, right? So how do you operate with your TV? Let's suppose you want to start your TV, you want to shut down your TV. So how do you operate with your TV? With the remote control, right?
With remote, sir.
Remote control, right? So TV is a let's assume TV is the data like this. Okay, so A is equal to 100. So 100 is like a TV, your television. Okay, and to operate the television, I need a remote control. So A, this variable is a kind of remote control. Okay, so whenever you're writing this syntax A is equal to 100, you have to put this analogy in your mind. Key 100 is my real data, which is my real television. This is the physical data, and the A which I'm using, it's my remote control. Okay, so if you want to do any kind of operation on the data, you have to use remote control. Okay, you have to use any variable. Let's suppose I want to add these two numbers. I want to add 100 and 200. So how to add? So for adding things, you need to use remote control. So what is my remote control here over here? A and B, right? So I'm saying A plus B. Okay. So I'm touching the 100 and 200 with the remote control. For example, TV, you are touching the TV with what? Remote control. You can play switch on, you can play switch off. Then you are functioning your TV with the remote control. Same thing here. Though I have a data 100, 200, but I'm using the data with the help of remote control, which is A and B. Okay. So if you want to do any kind of operation in the program, you have to remember, I need to use a variable. Okay. I need to use a remote control. Okay. So here I'm doing the operation A plus B. So A plus B will produce another data, which is 300. And this data you have to store into another variable in C. Okay, getting this? So I did my operation A plus B. on these variables. Okay, after operation, generally it will produce some data, new data. Okay, and that data you have to again store in some another container, maybe another variable, which is C here. So you can create multiple variables in a program. There's no such restriction. Okay, so I did, now my operation is complete. I had two numbers, A is equal to 100, B is equal to 200. The remote control is E for first data. The remote control is B for second data. I did operation on the remote control A plus B. It produced my data C. Now I want to display this result to user. You did some operation, you got the result, and I want to show the data, show the result to user. So for the showing part, you have to use a function print. Okay. So going forward, I will be using print multiple times. So this function should be in your mind now. Okay. You have to memorize, or you can, whatever, you have to memorize, or you have to remember this function print, P-R-I-N-T, print. Print is for display purpose. We display the data to the user. Okay, so say print and then parenthesis, like this. It is called parenthesis. Okay, this is a square bracket. It is called parenthesis. So print, the function name print, after that followed by parenthesis. Okay, and inside the parenthesis, pass the data that you want to show. For example, here I want to show C. What is the output, right? So yeah, type here C. Okay, so this will show the result. It will show the data of C. If you run this, it will show the result 300. You got this? So this is the simplest program in Python to add two numbers with the help of variable. Any doubt here? Did you understand this syntax?
Yes, sir, understood.
100%? Okay. So here A is my variable, B is my variables. Okay. After, let's suppose I added two numbers, I want to change my variable A. I can change. I can do, because it's a variable, I can change number. Now A become 900. If I do again A plus B, it will be different. C is equal to A plus B, it will be different now. So now initially it was 100. Okay. So initially it will print 300, but after assigning new data, I can assign new data into A. So it will print, oh, okay, C, I forgot print C. Let me print C here. So initially it will be 300, now it becomes 1100 because I changed the data, 900. Okay. So this is pretty much about variables. So if somebody asks you what is variable, variable is just like a container to hold the data, real data. Okay. And the value inside the data, inside the container can be changed. And the variable is just like a remote control. Okay. So this analogy should be, always in your mind. Variable is just a remote control and the real data is my television, my TV. Okay. So this is the variable concept. I hope it should be clear. Okay. Next thing is a constant I will talk about later. So I talk about variable. Next thing is an identifier. What is identifier? Okay. In the layman term, in the English term, what do you mean by identifier? It's English word. So identifier means something you can identify. Okay.
Yes.
Something which help you to identify something. Okay. For example, I'm person, how I can identify it. So every person has some characteristic, right, to identify. So in the language term, let me go mute. Guys, if you're not speaking, then please go on mute. Okay. So in the language term, how to define identifier? Okay. So identifier is nothing but in the programming sense is the logical naming. Let's suppose you have a child, or you have a daughter, you have a son, right? So for your son and daughter, you give some proper name, right? Or it can be Rahul, it can be Akshay, whatever. So why you're giving a name, right? This is did you ask this question? Why I'm giving name to my children, my son, my daughter? Why? Because somebody can identify. If you're giving a name to your daughter's son, then it is very easy to identify, right? This is Rahul, this is Pooja, this is XY, this is Bala, this is Vijay, right? So it's easy to identify the person. This is Rajesh, right? So here in the variable case, let's suppose I'm creating a variable A, B, C, whatever. Okay. So here I'm giving a name. So 100 is my data. Okay. So how to identify this data with the name A? How to identify 200 with the name B? Okay. So this A and B is nothing but the identifier. So identifier is just a logical name to identify your data. You got it? So identifier is just a naming. It is just a naming convention. You're just giving the name to your child. That's all. A logical name, not something like uh, whenever you're giving your name to your child, you think, right, what should be the proper name, right? You think, you take help from your relatives, your friend, and you spend a lot of time to figure out the proper name, right? Similarly, in the variable case, also you have to give a logical name. Okay, identifier.
Sir, both are same now, sir. What is the difference, sir? We are calling A is a variable, and now here also we are calling A is an identifier.
So see, A is a name. Okay, I'm giving name. Okay, so identifier is just a kind of naming conventions. It is you can say it's a process. Identifier is a kind of process through which you are giving a logical name to your variable. So A is a so see, A is a real actual name, right? A is the actual name. Let's suppose I'm saying Rahul. This is my son Rahul. Okay, so actual name of my son is Rahul, right? This is the variable. Okay, and how to create identifier? So this is also called identifier. This is identifier. This is a variable as well identifier. You can say it's a interchanging. Okay, so the variable name is Rahul and the identifier identify. Okay, let me put this way. See here, variable name is Rahul, right? Okay, and the identifier to identify data 100 is Rahul. Now does it make sense? So variable, see, 100 is my data. Okay, for this data variable name is Rahul. That's part is okay. And to identify this 100, the identifier name is Rahul. So both variable name and identifier is same. You can say that in that sense. Okay. So identifier is just like that's how you will identify the data. So to identify the data, you have to write a variable name. Okay. And to create an identifier, to write a valid identifier, we have some process. We have some rules. So identifier can be any name. This is just like a name. Okay, identifier is any name that we can use in Python. For example, constant name, function name, variable, class, object, variable, any name. It's just like a name. Rahul, Akshay, it's an identifier. Okay, and you can say it's a variable as well as identifier. So identifier can be any logical name, any name. For it can be variable name, it can be constant name, it can be function. For example, print. Okay, print is a function name, so it is a identifier. I can say it's a print is an identifier. Okay, so identifier is nothing but any name. It can be any name. It can be name for constant, it can be name for variable, it can be name for your function, methods, anything. It's a name. Okay, and how to give a proper name in Python? There's some rules. So these are the rules to create a valid identifier. Okay, for example, for your son and daughter, you're giving a logical name. You make a lot of decisions, you take help from your relatives. Only then you come to conclusion this should be the proper name for my daughter or son. Okay, similarly in Python as well, there are some rules to create a variables. Okay, for example, Rahul, I cannot say something random name, something like this, something like this. This is not a proper name. Okay, you can see it is in red, so it is not a proper name. So if you want to write a proper name, proper variable name, or if you want to write a proper identifier, there is certain rules in Python and you have to follow those rules. Okay, so right now I'm going to show what are the rules. So the rule says if you want to write a variable name or any valid identifier, this is the rule. You have to use only these characters. Okay, from A to Z alphabet, English alphabet, A to Z uppercase or A to Z lowercase, or any digit from 0 to 9. okay, and only underscore. So these are only allowed in writing a valid name. Apart from this, you cannot use some other character. So only A to Z, all the alphabet from uppercase, lowercase, and digit 0 to 9, and only underscore. Okay, here you can see I'm using some special character, dollar, question mark. So you cannot use, only underscore is allowed. If I say underscore, it is okay. Okay, you can see it is okay. So you can use only underscore. Okay, so there are some rules. This is rule number 1. So only special alphabet and digit. I can use digit as well. For example, let's suppose I can say 2, 5, 6, something like that. Okay, this is also possible. So only A to Z, uppercase, lowercase, 0 to 9, digit, and only underscore. These are only allowed. If you're writing variable name, if you're writing any valid identifier, this is only pretty much allowed. Otherwise, nothing is allowed. Okay. And not allowed what? No special characters. You cannot put any special character. Only you can put underscore. That's all. No special character. For example, let's suppose I put here something dollar. It will not allowed. Percentage or n% or hash, like something like that. So it is not allowed. You can see it's a red. Okay. So only underscore is allowed if you're writing any variable name. This is rule number 2. And no special character allowed. Okay. And identifier should not start with a number, though you can use number in the middle or at the last. Okay, but you should not start with a number. Let's suppose I start with a number. Here I'm putting number in the beginning, 9. It is saying error. Okay, so you cannot start with a number. You should start only with A to Z alphabet or underscore, but number, starting with number is not allowed. It is invalid. Okay, so what is not allowed? No special character is not allowed, and starting with a number is not allowed. Okay, and identifier are the case sensitive. What do you mean case sensitive? I mean uppercase and lowercase are different. If I say here, let's suppose if I say lowercase a and uppercase a, so both are different. Okay, logically you might be sounding it both are same, lower small case, uppercase, both are same, but in the programming world both are different. Your uppercase a and lowercase a, in this case it's at 2 different variables. Okay, so you have to make sure when you are writing the case, it's a case sensitive. Got it? Okay, any doubts so far? We are good. We are good, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what is not allowed? No special characters, and you cannot start with a number. Okay, and case sensitive. Okay, and reserve words. In Python, there are a lot of reserve words. You will come to know gradually. So reserve word you cannot use. For example, you can see these are reserve words. For example, false, none. There are some list of all the reserve word. Okay, here given that. So you cannot use this all word. For example, for. 4 is a reserve word. Okay, what is reserve word? Reserve word is a word which are used by Python. Okay, because Python has a programming language. So Python itself, they are using some word, and it is kept reserved. It is used only for programming purpose. Okay, so these are the words that you cannot use for creating variables, creating identifier. For example, say if I say 4 here, let's suppose if I say 4 is a reserve word. 4 is equal to 100. Okay, it is not allowed. You cannot use any reserve word as a variable name, so try to ignore it. Okay, but let's suppose if I say FOR uppercase, is it okay? This is a valid identifier?
Which one, sir?
FOR uppercase.
FOR.
Lowercase is not. FOR lowercase is not a valid. Okay, it's a reserve word.
Okay.
FOR is a reserve word. But if I say uppercase 4, then it is okay, because it's a case sensitive, right? This 4 is different from lowercase 4. Okay.
Yes, sir.
This 4, lowercase 4 and uppercase 4, both are different, not same. Though logically you might be sounding same, but it is different. because it's Python is a case sensitive. Okay, so this uppercase 4 is okay. Python will not have any problem with that. But if you use lowercase 4, then it's a problem because it's a reserved word. You cannot use these words. Okay, so there are a couple of list of all the reserved word here. You can see here, false, none, true. You will see. You will understand this all reserved word gradually. So these are some words. So these words are not allowed to create any variable name. Got it? Okay.
Yes, sir.
And one more thing, one thing you have to take precaution. You should not start any identifier with 2 underscore. 1 underscore is okay. For example, here I can use 1 underscore. Okay, in the beginning I can use 1 underscore, or in I can use 1 underscore. So 1 underscore is pretty much okay, no problem. Okay, but you cannot use 2 underscore. 2 underscore beginning or end like this. So try to avoid using 2 underscore for the variable name. Why? Because of some reason. So Python has a special meaning of underscore underscore. It's called magic number. Okay. So don't try to use any single underscore is okay, but don't try to use 2 underscore underscore. It will create problem. Okay. So there are some certain rules to create identifier, to create a variable names. It can be variable name, it can be constant, it can be function, it can be class, it can be object, anything. Okay. So whenever you're writing a logical name for a variable, then you have to follow these rules. So what are the rules? So what are not allowed? No special character. You cannot use no special character. You cannot use number starting with. Okay. And you cannot, you're case sensitive. Okay. And don't try to use underscore underscore in your variable name. And reserve word you cannot use. Okay. So this much is not used, and remaining everything is possible. You got this? Okay. Now, based on this observation, whatever you learned here, can you tell me, is this is a valid identifier? It's a valid syntax. Underscore num is equal to 100. It's a valid. It's okay.
No, sir.
Why it is not okay?
We should not start with underscore, no?
It can start. 2 underscore is not okay. 1 underscore is okay. Here I'm using 1 underscore. Okay. Don't use 2 underscore. Underscore underscore num is not allowed. But 1 single underscore is pretty much allowed. It is okay. So this is a valid identifier.
Underscore,
Okay.
na, sir. 1
Sorry?
underscore is okay, but we should not start with underscore, na?
There is no rule like that.
No. See,
Only use it, but not from the starting.
Yeah. So starting you can use 1 underscore. This is perfect. No problem with that.
Okay.
But you cannot use 2 underscore. Underscore 2 times. This is not valid. This is not good. Though there's no problem, but we should avoid this. 2 underscore. Try to avoid this. Don't create any variable like where it has 2 underscore. Single underscore is okay. Okay, but don't use 2 underscore. Okay. Similarly here, num underscore num. It's a valid identifier. Yes.
Sir, here hash is a special character, na?
Hash, I will talk about that. It's a comment actually. I will talk about that.
Sir, it's not allowed, sir.
Okay, if you using hash, then it's a special meaning. It's called comment. Okay, I will talk about that. If you let's suppose if I put here hash in the beginning, then it is not in that case what happens, this Python will ignore everything. So this is not a valid syntax. Everything will be ignored by Python. Okay, so don't try to use hash in your program. I will talk about it is called comment. Okay, I will talk about that later, but
Okay.
So don't use hash. Okay, there's special meaning for that. Okay, so this is a valid variable. Let me put here. Okay, so this is the valid. It is a valid name, number underscore 9. It's a valid num underscore 9. It's okay.
Yes, sir.
How it is okay? Can you explain me?
We can use one number. any alphabet from A to Z.
Uh-huh.
You can use 0 to 9 numbers, and you can use one underscore at one
Okay.
time.
Okay. Can I use this? It's a valid. It's okay.
Yes, it is also valid because
It's not valid, sir.
No.
We
No,
should
sir.
not start
We
with
cannot
the
start with
numerical value.
You should not start with a
with
number.
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 Yes.
Okay. Okay. This is valid. Is it valid?
No.
Special character.
The dollar is a special character.
A special character.
Not valid.
Okay.
Special
I can
character.
use underscore. This is perfect. So don't try to use any special character. One number. This is valid. One num is
No.
equal to 100. No.
No.
You are
Not
starting with a
start with a number.
number.
Not start with number.
Yeah. Okay. So I hope you got this. Okay. So you have to remember what I cannot do. What I cannot do, I cannot start with the number. I cannot use a special character other than
Special
underscore, and I cannot use two underscore. Okay. And I cannot use reserve word. Okay. So these are the not. If you know the not, what you don't have to do, then remaining thing is possible. So only focus on the not part. Okay. Got it? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
There is a concept of constant. Now let me talk about what is constant. Okay, I cover variable. I hope what is variable, right? Everybody is clear with variables. What is variable now? Okay, what is variable? What is identifier? So identifier is just a name. Okay, and constants. What is constants? Let me talk about the constants. So if I say constant, then in the English term, what do you mean by constant? It's a very pure English word. Constants. What do you mean by constant?
That way
It will not change.
Not change. Yes. So variable, the difference between variable and constant is that variable can change. I can change the data in the variable, in the container. Okay. But constant is kind of container which it does not allow to change the data. In other language like Python, like Java, C++, you cannot change the data in the constant. Okay. So how to create the constant? But in Python, there's a different concept. Let's suppose in Java, I'm writing a Java code. Okay. So in Java, there is a keyword called final. Okay. Let's suppose I'm creating any, let's suppose A. Final A is equal to 100, 90. Okay. This is a Java code. So in Java, in another language like a Java, C++, another language, they have a very special keyword, a special word to indicate whether it's a constant. So if I say final, it means A has become final. Okay. After that, you cannot give some different number here. So A will only hold 90. If I say final constant, so A will only hold 90. You cannot change the data inside the A in Java. Okay. In the C+ language, we have a concept of const. It's a keyword const. It's a constant. So the idea of constant is what? If you define the data, if you have taken the data inside the constant, you are not allowed to change the data after that. This is the whole idea about the constant. Okay. But in Python, unfortunately, there is no such hard rule. Okay. See, in Python, we can create constant, but there's a actually it's a tradition. I can say it's a good advice ki don't change the data. If you're creating a constant in Python, then don't try to change the data. But by mistake, if you change the data, it is okay. If by mistake it happened, then it is possible to change the data. Okay. So in Python, how to create constant, we have some tradition. In the constant, we have to put all in capital letters. Let's suppose I want to create this Python. For example, let me give an example of, for example, gravitational constant. Okay. We know that in physics, the value of G is 9.8, right? It's a gravitational constant, right? In G, in physics. So if somebody has defined that the value of gravitational constant or G is a 9.8, it means it's a universal truth. Okay. And you have to accept it. You're not supposed to change this data. The value of G is going to be constant. You are not supposed to change that. Okay. So how to create constant in Python? So this is the convention, I will say. It's a traditional convention. So your value, the name of the constant should be uppercase, like this. So everything should be uppercase. And if you want to separate the word, then put underscore. So gravitational underscore constant 9.8. Okay. So this is considered as a constant in Python. Okay. This is just a convention. But if I print this, let's suppose, let me print this data, it will say 9.8. Print 9.8, it will say 9.8. Okay. But by mistake, if you change the data, it is quite possible. It's a constant, but let's suppose by mistake, somehow I made some change. Okay. And after making the change, I want to print the data. So it will say it's a different data. This is before change, this is after change. So let me run this. See, it got changed. Okay. So in Python, there is no such hard rule, no restrict rule to avoid the change in the constant. You have to make a note. Okay. So how to create a constant using uppercase, but you can change the data, you can change the value in constant as well. But it is a good advice. It's a convention that don't try to change the data but by mistake it happened, that it can happen. Okay. So how to create a constant in Python? Just use a uppercase, underscore, and data like this. But it can be changed. Got this? So Python has no such restriction. Very hard, fast rule. Okay. Any doubt here? Understanding this constant variable identifier? Any doubt? Are we good?
No doubt, sir. But a constant also identifier only, right?
Sorry, concept.
Constant also an identifier only, right?
See, identifier. I think you're confused now. Identifier is just a name. It is just
that's
a
what
name.
I'm asking.
Yes.
What I'm thinking is, identifier is a name. It can be a variable also, and it can be a constant also.
Right. Yes. You see, identifier any name. It can be variable. It can be constant. It can be function. It can be class. It can be object. Anything. Any name.
Oh,
it is just a name. Just a name. That's all. So a variable can have name. A constant can have name. A function can have name. Class can have name. Object can have name. It is just a name. That's all. It's just a name. Okay. And variable is a name. It's a container which holds the data. It can change. And constant is another container which it is supposed to not the change of data, but we can change in Python. So identify just a naming, just a name. It can be any name. And how to give a name, we have a rule for that.
Okay.
So please don't try to confuse. So here we understand how to create constant, how to create variables, and how to do this basic operation, for example, plus, and how to use print function. Okay. I hope pretty much this is pretty much this. I think this you're able to understand this code. What is happening here, right? This code is okay. Are you able to understand this code? What is happening here?
Yes.
Okay. So we are creating variables A, we are creating B variables, we are adding two numbers, we are doing operation, it is producing new data, we are creating another variable C and printing the C. This is pretty much basic about Python, variable, constant, and operations. Okay. Okay, guys. So this is all about this. Okay, so we have covered only constant, variable, identifier, the reserved word, and tomorrow we will cover what is expression, what is statement, block, comments, what is comment, the hash. Okay, you can see here in my file, I'm putting a lot of hashes. You can see here, hash. There are so many hashes. So why I'm creating hashes? There's a purpose for that. So I will talk about tomorrow. Okay, so this hashes is called comments. I will talk about that. What is comment? So this is basic. We have covered very basic one today. Any doubt so far? We are good. How to create constant variables, identifier. So today we learned constant variable and identifier. This pretty much we learned today.